I'm about to be incredibly negative about Jedi Survivor, and I want to preface that with a statement. It's often that when you focus so heavily on one negative thing, it makes it seem like you've disregarded everything else that's great about that thing. And it should be very clearly stated that Jedi Survivor is a great game, and there is some truly incredible moments here. Jedi Survivor is an incredible game, and it's one that just a few days ago I was gushing about. I truly believe that for the most part it takes some of the best elements of the third-person action-adventure genre and just perfects them completely. It also manages to pull off the Soulsborne elements really well too. It's in that perfect level of risk-reward and difficulty to create a blue milk cocktail of dreams. But it also manages to make a blunder the size of which I don't think I can forgive. It's a blunder that should have been the coolest moment in the entire Jedi franchise, and in my opinion, it completely butchers it. Of course, I'm being vague here, but that's because the moment I'm talking about is a spoiler of humongous proportions. So before I jump in, here is your final 5-second warning before we get spoilery. And I mean like properly spoilery. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Darth Vader. Okay, that's harsh, but Jedi Survivor manages to mess up Darth Vader in a pretty big way. Let's be honest, Darth Vader is the Star Wars bad guy. You dream about facing off against him, and he really is what every Star Wars franchise is building to in some form. If I'm playing around in a universe in which Vader is about, I want to see Vader do his thing. Jedi Fallen Order nails this pretty much perfectly, and it's a final introduction at the end which pretty much sets the tone for the future of the games. In my eyes, this is all built into a huge showdown in which Cal fights Vader, and that should be a huge deal. It should be a moment where Cal's future is genuinely on the horizon and we don't know whether he's going to live or die. This should be the most important moment in the entirety of the Jedi franchise. But that doesn't happen. Around 3/4 of the way through Survivor, you lose your upgrades, your stim packs, and you're forced into the single lightsaber stance with few new abilities. After a short but very easy combat section, you end up in a 1v1 face-off with Vader himself. And to preface this with a little bit of positivity, Vader's introduction really is incredible, and he kind of nails the exact tone and the threat that Vader should be in this universe. His lightsaber lights up red, mine blue, and I say to myself out loud, let's go. And then I die. And then I die again. And again. And again. And again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Of course, in the back of my mind, there's the lingering thought that this battle really has no weight at all. I mean, what's actually going to happen at the end of this battle? What am I going to do? Kill Darth Vader? This is a game that's canonically set years before Vader actually dies. I don't think that's going to go down too well if that's how this story ends. But that's not the point. I can look past that and just view this as an incredibly cool moment circular to the franchise. But it's one that should be made even more cooler than Fallen Order, because I can actually play in it. But herein lies the major issue. When I'm fighting Vader, I'm not fighting him as Cal. In fact, I'm fighting him as an entirely new character, one that I'm not used to playing with at all. And yes, they're similar, but they still have very different abilities and a lot of mechanics that I'm just not used to. You're actually playing as Sia while Cal is incapacitated, and she's an incredibly cool character, but she's also one that I've only had around 30 minutes of very, very easy fights with before this Vader battle. Admittedly, that's enough to get a basic grasp of her abilities, but it's definitely not enough time to practice and then get thrust into one of the hardest fights in the entire game. Now, my problem is not necessarily with the difficulty, but either way, that's probably still going to lead to the 3 following comments. Get good, skill issue, and hold that L. And I'll gladly hold the L, but I really don't think the difficulty is the main problem here, as much as it is the way that the game presents it to you. But it's the difficulty that's being thrust on you in a completely foreign gameplay style. I've just spent over 20 hours molding Cal Kestis into the Jedi I want him to be. I've explored caves, planets, and killed countless bounty hunters in order to gain experience points and put them where I want. I've found hidden stim canisters to give me health boosts that I now rely on. I've mastered using the stances that work the best for me in the blaster and single blade and crossguard combo. My entire gameplay is structured around the way I want to play. So why now strip all that away from me and make me play as Sia? Jedi Survivor is very clear on the fact that it wants you to put your own stamp on Cal. This is the first time you can even customize the way Cal looks outside of his outfits. In fact, it's so adamant that even though every single player is playing as Cal, everyone's Cal's probably going to be different, which is why it just seems so reductive to me to take that away from me and force me into an incredibly difficult battle that just leaves me frustrated as a player. And I'm not frustrated because I'm failing, I'm frustrated because the game has taught me how to play it and it's just completely shifting those rules upon me. Vader is almost completely immune to force attacks, making Sia's force combat useless. Seer only has 4 stim canisters, and they don't even come close to filling up your health bar. Vader has 3 distinct phases, getting more powerful with each phase, adding in new unblockable attacks and multiple different attack variations with each phase. It's a battle that's primarily built around dodging, and one that punishes you for not learning that. A fight like this would have been difficult with my Cal, but I'm constantly reminded that that still isn't the case. One of the core mechanics of the game is Cal's slowdown ability, and Seer, of course, does not have that. She has a block ability that, again, has no effect on Vader, and while she does still have Force Slam that can give you a slight 1-second opening, it's still pretty useless. What makes it even more annoying, though, is it teases you with the concept of BD1, with Seer getting BD1 to help her in the scene right before the battle, potentially giving you the chance to at least retain the stim canisters that you've earned and found throughout the game. But alas, he leaves you right before the big fight, and then this multi-phase fight just doesn't give you any chance to breathe and recover. Even trying to use a stim in this fight is pretty much often interrupted by Vader's force pull. In the end, this fight took me almost 2 hours, and when I finally did beat it, I did it by lowering the difficulty of the game. At this point, the coolness of actually fighting Vader had just completely worn off. I was no longer focused on the fact that I was fighting the coolest villain of all time, and instead I was just focused on how frustrating it was that I've now got to learn an entire new mechanic system pretty much for 20 minutes of the game. In a fight as important as this, I want to feel like I have a fair shot, and maybe that is the point. Maybe this is a fight designed to show you how truly powerful Vader is. But then again, Seer is hailed as a super Jedi, and until Vader does eventually kill her, you're supposed to be able to stand your own against the Sith Lord. It doesn't feel like this is really supposed to be a one-sided fight. It only really feels that way to me because I'm not used to playing the game in this way. It should be noted though that this may be an experience that is solely tailored around the way that I play the game. I imagine if you played the entire game with her stance and even focused more on blocking than I did, this could be pretty easy. But the fact that I'm forced to lose all the elements of choice that I've crafted throughout this entire experience frustrates me so much. But this is a problem that extends past Jedi Survivor and kind of infects all of Soulsborne games around it. And a perfect, relatively recent example of that would be the God-devouring serpent in Elden Ring. It's a boss that's almost impossible unless you use one specific weapon to beat it. Gimmick fights are a huge point of contention in the Souls community. I personally agree that they're pretty poor. It's completely reductive of the way the game is designed, and it forces you down paths that you never wanted to go down. And it's still frustrating to me at this moment that the first time that I'm actually fighting Vader in the Jedi franchise is just a gimmick fight. It should be so much more than that, and for a game that seems to have learned from so many mistakes from both action-adventure games and Soulsborne games, it's a shame to see them mess up so badly here. It might be a skill issue that this fight was only possible for me on a lower difficulty, but it also took away all that magic either way. And I don't see any future fights with Cal and Vader are going to have anywhere near the same level of impact that this fight really could have had. It's difficult enough to make a fight interesting when you know you can never win the fight, but to make the fight itself a pain, it's just deeply disappointing. But before I go, I want to end this video on a very positive note, because Jedi Survivor is a truly brilliant game. So before I go, I want to play you a short montage I've made of my favourite thing to come out of Star Wars ever. And if you want to see more content like this on the GG Recon channel, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below, and let me know what you thought of this very important fight in the Star Wars lore. But for now, enjoy this.